I actually started the video. Um, Welcome. I have my internet back. It's been a rough couple of days. I actually had internet, through my phone, and we did go ahead. If you watch my last video, um, you'll know what was going on. But let me introduce myself. I'm your tour guide, Otaku, and essentially, I'm coming on. I rarely come on a Wednesday unless I have books to show off or whatever. But today's stream is pretty significant, I think, because I've come up with uh, basically the new age of comic books, and I'm going to go over my reasoning for why the comic book community should adopt um, this new age. So we're going to propose what the new age of comic books should be, and it's up to the comic book community. If you watch this video, hopefully you share it, or you start talking about it in the same context that I'm going to talk about it here, and it catches on and goes viral. And we'll see. But before we get to that, yeah, just a little to backtrack on what was going on with my internet. I have changed plans, so I'm no longer on my former service. I'm on a new service. I'm with T-Mobile Home Internet, and I've bundled it with the mobile service. So we are loving it. It's only been a couple days in terms of my mobile service, and today is really the first day of our internet service because we got the router in the mail today, and so far so good. The speeds are very quick for where we live. In fact, it's I've noticed just in terms of using my computer and my phone and all that, um, the speeds are much faster. The loading speeds are much faster. So there's a marked, just a visible difference. So very pleased with that, and hopefully this stream doesn't have any issues moving forward. But yeah, so I am going to talk about something that may or may not be controversial, but hopefully, again, like I said, hopefully people kind of hear my arguments out, and we actually formally adopt a name for the current age of comic books. So what I'm proposing is we call, hey Tyler, what's up? So what I'm proposing is, there have been a lot of kind of names thrown out because we've had the golden age of comic books. Then came the silver age. Then came the bronze age. Then came the copper age. Okay. And we've all been kind of using these like metallic symbols for each age. And then we hit the modern age of comics. And the modern age of comics, really, it's like the latter part of the 80s, all of the 90s, even up through today, we're calling modern books part of the modern age. And it's spanning close to, 30 years, going on 30 years now. And that's not right, right? We've got to essentially demarcate a line. Hey, Tyler. And Tyler, I'd like to get your thoughts on this because I really want this to go viral. I'm proposing that we call the new age of comic books the viral age of comic books. So we're not going to call it the platinum age. We're not going to call it, what are some of the rare earth minerals that for the batteries and all that, the lithium age. We're not calling it the lithium age. We're not calling it some obscure element. We're going to call it the viral age. And okay, I'm going to lay out my arguments on why it should be called the viral age. But let's mark from where we're going to call the new age of comic books. Okay, so I'm just going to show off some books here. Um, in 2018 and 2019, we had some big milestones hit the comic book community. First, we had Action Comics 1000, big milestone in comic books. The first comic book to hit the 1,000 serial mark. It took nearly 80 years for it to get to this point. Yeah, exactly 80 years. That's crazy, 2018. And we mark this really landmark issue and really milestone moment in comic book history. And then soon followed, we had Detective Comics 1000 in 2019. Okay, another milestone. This is the second comic book in this collecting hobby history that hit the 1,000 issue mark. And right around 2019, kind of into, it's right around 2019, 2020. I don't know if I have the issue here. Let's see. I think I have it somewhere. We had Wonder Woman 750 also. Okay, not quite the 1,000 issue mark, but it was right around there. Wonder Woman hit the 750 mark, and a bunch of Marvel titles also getting way up there in terms of milestone issues as well. And that's a great place to just kind of put a pin in where maybe the modern age would kind of flip the page, right? So we're going to kind of put a pin in the end of the modern age right around 2019. Okay, 2019, all the books up to 2019 are quote unquote the modern age. Now, I don't have to tell you what happened in 2020, right? I don't have to tell you. We all lived it. We all survived it. Many of us, we lost loved ones that didn't make it. And so it was a very tumultuous time, but it was also a time of like free money, right? We're getting the government subsidies, and we're getting the checks, and people are buying comic books. And we just saw this meteoric rise of prices. People just, I got back into comic books. I was submitting to CGC. I was getting swept up in this sort of viral craze. So you had the pandemic, the coronavirus running rampant. You literally had just like the comic book industry with all these like artists and books and people just kind of going crazy around what was at the time kind of like FOMO in terms of buying books and cashing in on people going after big books, right? So you just saw prices rise, people kind of go crazy, FOMO into like buying stuff like ebooks at those high prices. Grading just skyrocketed, and it all was just going crazy, right? We were thick in the middle of that, and that's what I want to call the start of the viral age. So if there's like a book in my collection that kind of marks that, this Strange Adventures, kind of a fitting cover and title for the viral age. It was a strange adventure, right? Living through that and experiencing all that. It was surreal. And it was a period of time where we were all hunkering down, not knowing what the future held. and really kind of like, I think in that high, definitely this is how I was feeling and why I got back into comic books. I was feeling a lot of anxiety, and in that moment of like, oh man, what's going to happen, kind of feeling overloaded with all um, the feeling of the unknown, and the pressure of like life and all that. Um, it really kind of pushed me toward something that was nostalgic, that brought joy, that was comforting, and that was comic books. You know, and so yeah, it was right around that time I got a bunch of comic books from my parents' place, and I was looking up prices, and I was like, wow, these are really expensive books now, and maybe I should get them graded, and I jumped into that, and that's what kickstarted sort of this new journey into comic books. So, hey, Christina, how you doing? Thanks for joining, guys, on a Wednesday. So I'm talking about what I'm proposing as the new age of comic books. We're going to call it the viral age of comic books, and I kind of laid out my timeline for um, when when it when the modern age would end. The modern age kind of ends with, again, the milestones of Action Comics 1000, Detective Comics 1000, Wonder Woman 750. This is around 2019, and the viral age is literally when the world just kind of went a little nuts. The coronavirus was a global pandemic, and what a fitting name for a new age of comic books, the viral age. And it's not just because of the pandemic that we're calling it the viral age. I'm calling it the viral age because we saw a real shift in the way the industry, the way comic book collectors, the way artists and the publishing companies all viewed this hobby, and uh, how the structure of books and collecting would be. It really shifted. It was a radical shift, and I'm going to kind of show off the books to show how far it shifted during the viral age. So again, I'm kind of marking the viral age with this book. This is published in February 2020. That's when we went in lockdown. That's when the first U.S. case here in Kirkland, Washington, was reported. I think it was January or late January, right around the early February, and you just started seeing cases throughout the country, people testing and people starting to pass away, and that death toll just continued to climb. The infection rate continued to climb, and we all lived it. We don't have to necessarily go through all that trauma again, but um, February 2020. Okay, this is a great book. Look at the cover. Stranger Danger, Strange Adventures. I mean, it's just I kill, right? It's like a great cover to kind of like mark as like the beginning of the. If you're going to put a face on the viral age, or a cover as the face of the viral age, I would. This is my vote for that. So what we're really going to do is we're really just going to show off books that I picked up. These are all viral age books, the books, modern books in my collection. So you're going to see one artist in particular, because I kind of she went viral basically. I mean, she continues to be an artist that people love and collect today, but definitely during the viral age, she was the hottest artist. There was just this like fervor around trying to pick up her books. Um, and that artist is none other than Peach Momoko. So I have a lot of Peach Momoko books, um, which will kind of feature on this. And I really put her at the forefront of the viral age artists because she had sort of a she kind of got introduced in 2018, right? And she was kind of building up a reputation for herself. And as she built that up, um, everybody was really just she became like an instant cover artist, right? She wasn't really doing anything on the interiors, but because of her popularity as a cover artist, they were creating these variants, and these are the variants people would target. And so now you saw the rise of ratio variants. You saw the rise of exclusives, and comic book shops were leveraging this sort of hysteria to pick up these like uh, you know, I guess lesser printed copies. Um, and this is where shops could sell them for much higher values. And then of course you could grade them, and they'd come. Modern books are going to come back 9/8 high grade. So it just really kind of jump started and fueled the grading of modern books. Um, and so that's kind of where the hobby is today. I mean, it's obviously that fervor and that mania has died down a lot. I don't see people being as enthusiastic about grading their books as it was peak pandemic period. Um, of course, CGC didn't help itself by having all those like quality control issues, and um, really the transparency around its process, and um, being able to ensure the legitimacy of something you're seeing online, whether that book is actually the graded book that was graded at CGC, or if it was replaced. So they haven't really addressed those issues, and so I think that helped. CGC helped kill its own market, and so yeah, um, it's died down quite a bit. In fact, so have prices. Prices kind of skyrocketed in it, and then they came skyrocketing back down. And again, we're just kind of at a low period of comic book prices. The demand has definitely died down. I think right now, a lot of comic book shops, I've seen a lot of local businesses close just because uh, the the cost to rent space, the price of books, the just the cost to just make a living. Inflation has just really impacted your ability to make a profit, because profit margins were thin to begin with, and then with all the inflation and all the price rising, and then just people just kind of taking a step back from the hobby because they don't have as much expendable income maybe to buy books as they did before. It's all sort of kind of impacted the current market. And I'd say again, like the viral age, if anything, what's really common about something that goes viral is it spreads very fast, right? And then once it's spread, that rate of infection slows down, and the virus itself begins to kind of like modulate and find a sort of a better balance where it's still in the community, it's still being spread, but um, again, it's there. It kind of uh, waxes and wanes in terms of its uh, presence, but it definitely is not as prevalent as when it's spreading, right? So you just see this spike, and then it kind of finds an equilibrium, and that's where it is. And that's where I feel like the viral age is currently. And who knows, maybe the viral age will end soon. Maybe at least give it a decade, right? The 2020s seem like um, a good kind of mapping point for the beginning and the end of the viral age. So let me know what you think of the name in the comments. If you think the viral age is fitting for this age of comic books. Yeah, everything is getting more expensive and people are cutting back. And right now, we don't have any indications that we're kind of in a recession at the moment, but people are predicting if a recession does hit, it will hit hard, and we could see some pretty, dire impacts from, uh, and the current administration is not helping issues. Like there were recession fears before all this tariff stuff, and before there was people were pulling investments out of the U.S., especially out of the U.S. Treasury market, right? The bonds, people are selling bonds, and there's all this like uncertainty on you know the future of the U.S. economy, and that's kind of where we're at today. So it's just really we're in a state of like kind of like a day to day wait and see kind of like issue. But hopefully the U.S. economy remains resilient, but we'll see. Yeah, I think as long as people have jobs and people have disposable income, which people still do, let's not make it all out to be really um, bleak. But I know right now there have been a lot of layoffs. Um, People are kind of looking for work, especially in my region. A lot of tech layoffs, a lot of people transitioning out of um, IT jobs because, again, they're just, you know, um, the tech industry is kind of paring down its workforce. So those are kind of like telltale signs that um, we're not. If tech companies are doing that, it's not a good sign for other companies that maybe aren't as financially sound as that industry is. So we'll see what that trickle down effect looks like. Um, but definitely for me personally, right? For me personally, all that hysteria, all the focus on comic books and all that, that's definitely died down a lot for me. I still love comic books. I still want to pick up books and all that, but I do realize like, at some point, like I picked up a lot of books over the past couple of years, and I just realized, I can't keep continuing to pick up books at that pace. I got a lack of space. It really is kind of like does take up a lot of time and resources to continue to do that. So I kind of like just told myself um, that I'm not going to really pick up. And I've stayed true to it. I think it's been almost a couple months since I picked up anything, and even all the pickups I did this year, they were like from the 33-cent bin and really like kind of meager um, leftovers of whatever budget I had from last year. I think I had like 20, 30 bucks left over from last year. And I just kind of just needed that out um, in the bargain bins and trying to pick up, stuff that I really like at really kind of bargain bin prices. So it's been, yeah, fairly, uh, pickups have subsided. And I'm like focusing on if I am going to pick up books this summer, which I want to do, I got to first kind of purge all the. I'd say I have a good long box of comics that I just need to get rid of before I can justify picking up anything else. So, um, you know, look at maybe selling them. I would love to just trade them and pick up books, just like trade the entire lot for like books, couple books that I want, but I know that's harder to do. Or just even sell them individually. Maybe we'll do a couple sales or something this week, this summer, but we'll see. Um, but anyway, let's get to uh, the viral age books. These are keys or books from the viral age from my collection. And again, I was mentioning Peach Momoko was probably the face or the artist, one of the forefront artists of the viral age, because she was really like the top modern artist as the viral age. From like 2020 on, it was like basically her show to run, right? She was like, people were fighting to get autographs from her, like at New York Comic Con. Not just one time, it happened like multiple times. Like people were just in her line fighting to like get her autograph or just cut in line or whatever. It's just like it was causing like hysteria, um, and yeah, I was the same. I literally have like a suitcase full of her books because that's kind of what I was targeting, and I was getting her books kind of late to the game and getting her books, but I was like paying kind of eBay prices for her books. I got this book and I don't regret it, but it is the design variant edition. And as we cover the viral age books, I think you will see like a definitive theme or motif running through the viral age, um, at least in my collection. But I just want you to notice like the covers as well, right? Like here you have it literally spelled out design variant edition. Um, so you got not only an A cover or a B cover, you've literally got the whole alphabet of covers. You got A through Z covers. Like you got a gajillion variants. And the more key issue that it is, the more like variants and like ultra rare ratio variants that you saw flood the market. And people literally were FOMOing on trying to get these books. So, here's another great example. This is a great cover here, Psylocke cover again, in Yuck Lee. This is an AAPI Heritage variant, released during AAPI Heritage Month. Beautiful K-pop like cover of Psylocke there. A lot of detail, beautiful artwork. In Hyuk is also another viral age artist. All the artists that I'm going to show off are kind of like the stars of this system we've built around the industry. Again, you have a standard A cover, and then you have a bunch of variants, right? Here's another variant edition on Hellions. This is the David Nakayama, the variant. Another beautiful cover here. David Nakayama also, these are all kind of sort of cover artists. They're not really doing much on the interiors, although you do see these artists hop on projects here and there. I think David is doing a couple projects with some of the independent titles, but yeah, for the most part, these viral age artists are literally just cover artists. They don't do anything else. They just spend all their time creating a set of like covers for various titles, and this is another variant edition, the DNA variant edition. Here's another DNA. I when I saw this, I was just like, I'm getting this. I'm sorry, this is just too good not to get. It's Mount Fuji. It's Wolverine in Japan with a samurai sword and cherry blossoms and Mount Fuji in the background. So David Nakayama just killing it on this cover. That just straight up fire at the time. It was going viral at the time, right? And here's another artist that we love, Art Germ with Supergirl, beautiful Supergirl cover, and the Super Bikini. You gotta love the Super Bikini. Come on, right? And then of course Psylocke. Man, is Art Germ's Psylocke just that's just glorious right there. The hair, the muscles. That is just such goodness, man. Such goodness right there. So all of these again are, variant editions. I think Art Germ is like the epitome of a viral age artist, right? I don't think he's done any interiors. At least, Peach Momoko, she's like doing interiors now, but like Art Germ, that guy's never done an interior panel in comic books. And he's not the only artist. There's a bunch of artists that just their only job is to like do variant covers basically, and nothing else. Here's another Alien cover by John Boy Myers, the variant edition. So you're seeing a real a theme here in the viral age. The variant editions, right? Just the flood of variant editions. And yeah, I got, like I said, the viral age created a lot of hysteria and mania around picking up books and variant covers and all that. I think it's not just comic books that you saw this hysteria in. It was sports cards too, right? People were just like, I think you saw the same kind of like pyramid effect. You saw these like influencers kind of like driving up prices on certain collectibles, and then that trickled down to like people, and so the market just took off, and then suddenly after some time, people were stuck with these like paying high prices for essentially things that weren't worth that much. Luckily, I didn't pay more than cover for most of these, so I didn't go crazy. Yeah, in fact, I picked up these all for cover. But we went crazy with the Peach Momoko we picked up. This awesome Daredevil cover. Yeah, that Kenobi cover is cool. That was when the the Kenobi series was kind of like getting hyped up, but then they released the like a mini series, right? Like a short Obi-Wan mini series to kind of set up that timeline a little bit. Um, so we have Daredevil. I'm going to show off all these Peach Momoko books. We got this Poison Ivy, Deceased cover. This is not a variant cover. This is actually, I think, the A cover. And what's interesting is like Peach Momoko, she is like almost entirely an exclusive Marvel artist. Like Marvel just kind of like scooped her up and said, "You're going to be a Marvel artist," and they kind of made her the face of the brand there. I was talking to my LCS today. He originally started his shop with sports cars, now doesn't carry any. Right, they priced themselves out of them. That's crazy. The non-cheap ones were basically $100 plus dollars a pack, and for this area, it just didn't last. Yeah, that was to be expected. Um, I still see people trying to pick up like tops. Hey, what's up, fanboy? Thanks for joining. So we're talking about the viral age of comic books. We're talking. We have to market somewhere. We have to market new age of comic books. And I'm just going back. If you're just catching in right now, I'm basically calling the starting point of the viral age of comic books February 2020. This comic book is the mark of the start of the viral age. This book was released in February 2020 as the pandemic got started here in the U.S. The first case, was here right in Washington, Kirkland, Washington. That person died. It was an older person, first corona death reported in the United States, and then it just all went to hell after February. So that's when we went on lockdown. Some people were like going on toilet paper runs, and just people were just like, I remember going to Costco with a gajillion other people trying to get toilet paper and water and all that stuff, and then we hunkered down, and people spent their pandemic money on comic books, and this is the viral age. Y'all lived it, y'all experienced it, so we're covering books from the viral age essentially. But back to my point, Peach Momoko was exclusively a Marvel. At some point, Marvel just like signed her. She just exclusively did Marvel covers, but there was a period right at the sort of the start of the viral age where she was doing both DC and Marvel and a bunch of like independent. She was kind of a freelancer, and if you were lucky enough to get some of her DC stuff, um, you have it, because I think her DC books are a little bit rare. But yeah, this is not entirely sure when this was published, but it's the DC deceased uh, run. All right. Glad I'm keeping you company at work, man. So deceased, Poison Ivy cover here, just beautifully. Like, her strengths are just these horror covers. And man, can she kind of create these really sort of jarring, horrific images. And that's that. We also have, as great as Peach Momoko is, she was doing so many covers. There are just times when she just kind of like phones it in, and it's not her best work. Case in point, I just think these, while I do think they're cool, I just think like some of these Spider-Man covers, like this one in particular, that's just not that great, But again, when you're just enamored by Peach, the name itself, you just want to pick up everything she's putting out, and that's kind of was my mindset. I was like, I need to get some Spider-Man from her. I need to get everything that she puts out, and I was kind of in that mindset when I picked up all this stuff. And then I fell out of it really quickly, but I still love her. I still love these books. I'm not gonna. I may trade them, but I'm not gonna sell them or anything. We got Devil's Reign. This was a great uh, transition. They made Elektra Daredevil, which I thought was like just a great way to great transition for the title and the character. I think the fact that they made Elektra a heroine. Um, but man, look at that cover. That is just a beautiful. The deadpan eyes there. That is just beautiful right there. Creepy as well. We've got Usagi Yojimbo. Another Usagi Yojimbo. And this variant edition of X-Men, Sunfire. Bam. Peach kind of paying her respects to her fellow superhero countrymen. That's some good stuff right there. That should be going viral, right? All that shit went viral during the viral age. All right, we're gonna do some more Peach Momoko because that's the easiest. I mean, like I said, she's kind of the face of the viral age because all her shit was hitting as we were stuck at home during the pandemic. All the shit I picked up during right around the start of the pandemic. This is a little kind of like, I guess, I want to say as we were coming out of the pandemic, right? This was, she, as great as Peach Momoko is on covers, her panel work is incredible as well. So um, I think for any artist, especially if you call yourself a comic book artist, right? If you're a person in the industry, like cover art to a certain degree is fine. But at some point, if you're going to be in the industry, you need to do interiors. You need to show you have the chops to tell a story um, with your artwork in a sequential, right? In a sequential manner. And definitely Peach passes the test. She definitely can do that. And she can do it as good, if not better than most. Now you don't have all the detail and the exquisite line work in those individual panels like you see on this cover, but she can definitely, uh, she can definitely create emotion. She can definitely create a sense of dramatic movement in her artwork, and again, it's beautiful. Some of her like full page, the way she kind of designs her panels and all that, it's just brilliantly done. And it's done in the most innovative manner because traditional, the process here is you have a penciler, then you have an inker, and then you have a colorist, right? Peach is doing that all by herself. She doesn't do any of the traditional uh, comic book uh, processes for her artwork. It's just her, a brush pen, and watercolors, and it's brilliant to see come to life on a page. She's really in a class by of herself, but I know a lot of people are like, copying her style now. But that's another thing that made her really just incredible to just witness in terms of her talent. We got Amazing Fantasy. This is another 1,000 issue. Right? This hit kind of peak pandemic, viral age, 1,000 issue of Amazing Fantasy. This is kind of like cheating, though. It's like Marvel decided, oh, you know what? We're going to just kind of, fill in the gaps for Amazing Fantasy and just say we got to 1,000. It's not really a true serial run of Amazing Fantasy, but Marvel had to get in on the game, not show those completely behind DC's storied history. So you get Spider-Man on this pretty cool variant cover, variant edition of Amazing Fantasy 1000. And then you have this great Venom cover with the chrysanthemums. Oh man, that's just sick right there. Just sick. What do you do? I mean, that is just comic book goodness right there. The bleeds and all that. Beautiful. All right, we got Ghost Rider. That's cool. This is a Spider-Man cover where I think more than the Spider-Man, it's the background and the web work and the flowers that really just make this a beautiful cover to. It's like you almost don't need Spider-Man. You just kind of like, right? Just the color, the intricate spider web there with the spider coming down. That's just good stuff. Again, not a lot of DC stuff, but man, is this Wonder Woman cover that she did? That is glorious. Look at the ink work on that hair. Beautiful, beautiful. It's important, right? Sequential storytelling is very important. Completely different, yes, than pinups, absolutely. And you got to show you have chops for that. And not everybody can do it because it's a different cadence. It's a different skill set. Like you said, you have to really have a good sense of design and storytelling with your images. So it's something you develop. It's not something that's just, I'm sorry, everybody developed it. Doesn't matter if you're Todd McFarlane, if you're Jim Lee, or whatever. You start, you take your, doodling skills, and then you learn. You basically learn it from industry mentors. And we touched upon this. Bernard Chang, when we spoke with Bernard Chang and Sean Chen, they learned from their mentors, like Bob Layton and Barry Windsor Smith. I mean, those are legends that they learn from. But in today's industry, with everything being, kind of like you email stuff in, you kind of just work independently, and you maybe do a conference call with your inker or conference call with your writer. It's not truly collaborative in the sense that you kind of like back in the day, you came to the office, you collaborate and worked through things 9 to 5, and you learned a lot of things, right? As you communicated, and you had people around you that were teaching you. That's all gone. It's kind of like, it literally is viral these days. You have to do stuff online and maybe watch videos or do things related to like, creating content and then sharing that and using that as like a resource versus like traditional mentoring, right? So it's changed a lot, and which is a testament to Peach Momoko's talent again. Like, nobody was sitting here teaching her how to do sequential work, but she looked at manga, she looked at how it was done in her country, and she just really was able to transition and adopt to it pretty quickly. So that's good for her. Emperella there. Love that cover. Wonder Woman. Great stuff. We've got this great web design again with silk. I love this cover here. We have demons. The character is just so badass there with the stump for the hand, or stump for the without the hand. This, when I saw this cover, I was just like, I just immediately fell in love with it. Such a beautiful cover. So Electra Black, White, Blood. Look at the scabbard and the sword there, man. It's just incredibly intricate. And this is peak Peach Molok right there. That's just peak goodness right there. Such a beautiful cover. Whoever owns the original art of this is a really lucky person. More Demon Day stuff. Peach Momoko just showing she can do a comic book better than anybody. X-Men. That's pretty cool. Yeah, this is a great Punisher. It's another great comic book from the viral age. Spider-Man, Miles Morales #1. The Peach Momoko variant there. Got a pretty unique take on Miles Morales Spider-Man. So there you go. Those are just some of the books, my viral age books in the collection. So let's see if this goes viral. Like seriously. I laid out kind of my arguments for why we should call I mean, we can't continue to move forward and just call this the modern age of comic books, right? We need to transition into a new age. And I can't think of a better starting point than the pandemic or a more suitable name than the viral age. Because it's twofold, the meaning there. One, again, like I mentioned, the pandemic, the coronavirus, um, you get the connection there. But the other aspect of the viral age is we were living in a time where really digital communication, this sort of, this is when people now you talk about a virtual call, you talk about Microsoft Teams or Zoom or like what's the other one? Help me out there. What's the other, like you got Zoom, you've got Teams, and then there's one more I'm forgetting, the one that kind of started it all. I think that's Zoom. But anyway, there's just a bunch of different tools now you can use to connect with people. YouTube, right? We all like created channels, and we were all like just kind of using YouTube as our source of like therapy and trying to stay sane during the crazy time, by connecting with one another and celebrating our community through YouTube, right? And we're still going strong, right? In fact, I remember the first time Fanboy and I connected, right? We were just like enjoying each other's content, and we were just appreciating. He's in Texas, I'm here in the Northwest, but because we share our love of Superman, and because we share our love of comic books, it was like I think a natural friendship for us to develop. And so I think, I don't think the viral, I know we're calling it the viral age, but the term itself, something going viral, something being viral, isn't all negative, right? It can have positive connotations as well. And I think the fact that we were all connected to each other through the digital platform, social media, this brought us together. Whether you look at that as good or bad, it brought us together, and it connected a lot of people. And now you see people like when we're finally able to relax those restrictions and meet again and connect again in person, we still kept the digital tools to connect us when we're not together, but also it made that physical connection. Um, the fact that we could go to the comic book shop, connect, and do things um, together, in person. That made those connections even more uh, important and special. So I think, we came out of the pandemic really stronger for it. Um, the only unfortunate thing with that is, I think social media didn't help to create unity among us. It also created barriers and divisiveness. So, that's something I think the powers that be, especially um, if you look at the people in power, right? The people in power want to stay in power, want to have you forget, uh, have you kind of distracted from what's going on the policy front. Um, that continued to be weaponized to divide us and used in political means. And so, I think we need to tone down the political rhetoric and really look at what's happening. And it's both parties are guilty, right? Both parties are guilty of um, passing policies, um, creating systems that continue to benefit only a certain class of people in this country. And I think we as a people need to really. Um, it's going to take a lot of proactivity among people to organize and really tell these systems that no, no, we're not going to do it your way anymore, right? It requires somewhat of uh, I want to say a soft revolution, but maybe, who knows? At the end of the day, maybe it'll come down to just people, you know, people having to get shot in the street for our leaders to really listen. But, we'll just see where that goes. I'm going to remain hopeful that this country can change for the better, like it has throughout our history. And I just want to see the people on top at the end of the day, not the corporations, not the mega elite billionaire class. I want to see everybody get their fair share. Of course, I don't want to get cynical, but that's kind of always been the goal of democracy, and yet we don't ever see it. This is something, government, democracy, it's supposed to be for the people, by the people, right? You never see that ring true for our country. And I think, it's, again, I don't know what it's going to take, but it's not happening ever. This political system is really just it's not really a good, it's not a good measure of how well we're faring as a society. All right, so with that being said, viral age. All I ask is, if you like this term, if you think, yeah, you know what, I'm on board with calling the new age of comic books the viral age. Help make this thing go viral. Share it, talk about it. Uh, let's help make this term go viral. Feel free to make a video. Feel free to share your thoughts here. But for the most part, I think it's fitting. So I think I hope a lot of people watch this video. I hope they share it, they talk about it, and they propose it to their friends, their families, or fellow collectors. Hey, uh, we're living in the viral age of comic books. So from 2020 on till 2029, um, enjoy the viral age and enjoy what what content I am planning for this Friday on our Otaku Weekly, and my check-in with Jeff on Saturdays for Double Tiger. And again, we're excited about the Superman movie and all the stuff DC has in store. So hoping the Superman movie, um, that's a good mid-marker point for the viral age, right? 2025. What better what better symbol of hope than Superman to bring us out of the viral age, right? As his presence kind of rises up out of all the chaos we've been through, for him to stand as a beacon of hope leading into the next decade. Um, yeah, he's a good again. Superman's a good marker for the midway point of the viral age, I think. I heard that people who make Overstreet Price Guide decide the name of the comic ages. Yeah, but they haven't done it for 30 years. So like, what are they waiting for? Again, this is what I'm saying. Like, if they want to decide on something, let them, I think they threw around terms like the platinum age, like the the your what is it, the lithium age, all these like different potential names. Um, okay, yeah, I say, I was just talking about we the people. This is the democracy. This is something we decide, not a few privileged people. Um, I'm putting my 2 cents out there. Let's hope it. Let's hope the viral age goes viral, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's fitting. All I'm saying is I think it's fitting because, like I'm going to just lay out the argument again for you guys catching it live now. With the advent of Action Comics 1000, Detective Comics 1000, these huge milestones that happened in 2018, 2019, Wonder Woman 750, 20, like right around 2020, 2019, 2020. That's a good fitting sort of like bookend to the modern age, right? As you're hitting the thousand issue milestone, right? Everything past 1,000 is just like a new era, right? You've reached 1,000 as a huge milestone in comic books. You're just really gunning for 2,000 at that point, because no one's going to be like, oh yeah, well maybe 1,500. That's another milestone, but no one's going to go crazy over 1,100 or 1,200, right? So you hit these big milestones at the end of the teen or the 2010s, and then again with the pandemic, the shift in the way the industry kind of looks at how to market books, right? Variant covers, ratio variants, the rise of the variant cover artist. You got literally a new arm of creators just doing variant covers. They don't do anything else. They just put out fun covers, and it's created a kind of a new channel for a lot of local artists too to just um, um, commission their artwork on these, you know, on the blank variant, blank variant covers, and and right is a good name. It's not a negative. Well, it has a negative connotation when you attach it to the pandemic. Obviously, no one wants to see another pandemic, but it happened, right? Um, and rather than calling it the pandemic, I think just I don't want to call it the pandemic age. It should be called just the viral age because it really is about this like the 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 digital presence of comic books and how they're marketed and how we talk about it and how we as a communicate like this video is a great example of the viral age. I wasn't making these videos before 2020. I started this channel in 2021, maybe 20, like the latter part of 2020, maybe. Um, and that was when I was just like going crazy about comic books at that time. I was just dove right in, submitted books to CGC, just kind of was going viral, or you know, um, the hobby was going viral because a lot of people just were stuck at home watching these videos, like FOMOing on like cover art, like Peach Momoko cover art and all that stuff. So we're living in the uh, viral content age where you put out content, you put out a video, you put out a short, you put out something, and you're just hoping, oh man, I hope it goes viral. Hope it's watched by a million people, and then it brings me in some revenue, and I can retire and all that. Yeah, you literally have like a whole class of influencers who pay to play, get their content out, and thousands of people, or tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands, or even millions if you're lucky. Millions of people view the content, like it, engage with it. It goes viral, and that's literally like your job now, right? When you go viral, it's like you drop everything and that's what you do, and you just are a slave to creating content. um, I just feel bad for some of these like people I see online. They literally just they're just like, you see, they're creating content and they're just trying to outdo the next person, and they're just like slaves to uh, the whatever thing they went viral with. If they went viral with like a food video, they're putting out food videos. If they went viral with shaking their ass, they're shaking their ass every day for likes and clicks. It's really sad, but that's what makes the viral age, right? I'm just living in this like uh, digital ecosystem. I call it the matrix. We're living in the matrix where everybody's in their silo. I'm in my comic book, silo, talking about comic books and all that, but everybody's in their little silos, looking and peering into other silos, and um, it's just quite this elaborate world we've built. Um, an interconnected world. It's a real world, but it's also not real. It's not real, right? It's like everybody playing to some kind of persona, like public persona and all that. Um, so for me, again, my intention with this whole thing was not to go viral, was not to get likes, not to get people that subscribe or anything. You never hear me asking you to like join my channel, or do all this. But I hope why you do tune in is because for me, it's just a form of kind of mental health therapy. It's a way for me to kind of like uh, release some stress, release some pressure, talk about something I love, share things that I was passionate about. I'm not as passionate these days about in terms of where my collection is, I'm definitely kind of lost some of the drive to pick up books and all that. But I'm still very passionate about the hobby. I'm still passionate about uh, the artists and the people I focus on in terms of collection. Um, but yeah, it got to be a point where like I can't pick up everything I want. It's just crazy, right? It's just crazy to try and pick up everything you want because it's one of those like you just will never be satisfied. At some point, you gotta like kind of take yourself out of that mentality and see it for what it is. It's really comes down to like impulse control, and it's a kind of addiction, right? Not to say it's like bad, but everybody has to have uh, a boundary on where up to where their collection can grow. If you don't set a boundary, if you don't set any like guardrails for you this hobby, then it can quickly escalate into like a situation where you're just hoarding and like you're stuck with a bunch of like books and everybody you care about leaves you and you know what I mean? Just like don't get into that situation where you're just like all you have are your books and you don't have anything else. Please, like, don't let it get to that point. Just enjoy the books you have. Um, Feel free to be like, I'm good with what I have. I don't need to pick anything up. I'm kind of there. I'm just like, I'm good with what I have. I still have a bunch of books I do want, but I'm good with what I have. And I'm ready to just kind of like, this is my collection. Don't need to add anything more. If I do add anything more, I need to purge some of the stuff I have. And I have a lot of stuff I want to purge right now. I'm just kind of strategizing on the best way to do it. Um, but yeah, I'm at a point where like until I get rid of all this stuff that I don't want, and I'm kind of slowly like adding more stuff, potential stuff to the stuff I don't want because um, you know, like the Peach Momoko books are a great example. Like I picked a lot of that up during my viral state of the viral age. Really just kind of crazed about trying to pick up everything and anything by her. That definitely wore off. Um, I recovered from the infection, I guess, that viral infection of Peach Momoko. And but I still love Peach Momoko. I still love the books that I've picked up, but I am willing to part with them. I am willing to trade them away or get sell them or whatever to pick up books that I actually want um, more, the ones that are more aligned with who I am as a collector. And these are the older books, the books that in more recent years, or actually just over the last maybe 2 years, I've been focused on picking up. But yeah, I don't disagree with that. Actually, you're right. Prime survival. Um, typically these ages were defined. The golden age was what, like almost a 20-year period, um, and the silver age was almost that, maybe a decade and a half. Bronze age, a decade and a half, almost 20 years. And I figure like 20 years is kind of like what you're looking at in terms of the max, and that's currently what our modern age is. It's from the 90s, right? Late 80s to, again, I'm saying it's up to 2019, right? So a little over 20 years. I don't think you can divvy that 20 plus years up into two ages. but I'm definitely up for calling it something else, something other than the modern age, right? Um, if you want to call the modern age like the platinum age or something, that works. I was thinking, because it was the rise of the internet, because it was the rise of um, personal computers. You could call it the Silicon Age, right? That might be a good name for the modern age. Um, but definitely, at some point, we have to get away from this whole uh, metallic elemental mindset. And I think again, viral age is just fitting because then you can just call things like they are in terms of what we've lived as a history, whatever comic books have gone through, right? Because it used to be called the pulp age, right? Um, Before the golden age, it was called the pulp age, something more organic. I think the viral age is just a great, like 20s, the 20s, 1920s. We call that sort of the pulp age. What better, we come 100 years full circle. The 2020s, something organic might be make more sense than something metallic. Um, those are just my 2 cents in terms of thoughts. The computer graphics age, yeah, silicon. I think the silicon age is just really fitting, or maybe like the fiber optics age or something. Something related to internet. I got my internet back, and I'm Wi-Fiing it right now. I used to have, first of all, this idea that the United States has like fiber cable lined as our internet infrastructure. That is a complete myth. Your government took your tax dollars and didn't do shit with it to create infrastructure for internet in this country. They gave it to a bunch of like telecom companies, and they didn't do shit with that money. They just burnt it um, on this like telephone network that doesn't support any kind of high speed internet. Um, if you're lucky to live in an area like I do, you actually have fiber laid out. You actually have, uh, you know, telecommunication towers that transmit and uh, fast, high speed internet relays. But for most of the country, you guys are just like using like old AT&T freaking telephone wires to connect to broadband, and it's just sad. It's really sad because you go to a place like China. I think most Americans would like think, oh, China's not, the US is more technologically advanced and living better lives than the Chinese. Well, no, the Chinese, in terms of internet, Koreans, Japanese, these governments invested in infrastructure. Their cities are well connected with fiber connectivity. Everybody has Wi-Fi. Everybody has high-speed internet in their homes. It's just the U.S. that's behind. So, um, and again, China is way ahead of the EV vehicle curve. China's kind of living in the future with in terms of how AI and automation and all those things are playing out to help people versus what's happening here in the U.S. Um, I hope, I really hope Americans catch up to what's going on in other parts of the world, because that's really where the U.S. should be. It shouldn't be just a couple like well-to-do cities and the rich um, benefiting from technology. It should be all of us. It should be every person in every state, from sea to shining sea, right? It should be just like everybody has access to technology, high speed networks. and the like. And yeah, Silicon Age. But yeah, the if it is really a decision by the what is it, the comic street, what is it, the Overstreet people, if it really is a decision by the Overstreet people to name these ages, uh, they need to get on that. They need to get on that, and they need to do it in a democratic way that makes sense. They can't just like throw out some arbitrary, like the Copper Age. Come on, you're gonna go silver, gold, silver, bronze, and then copper. Like, what's the logic in choosing copper? What makes copper better than aluminum or steel or anything else, right? Like I don't know, germanium or some of the other metals, lead. Trying to think of another metal. Um, zinc. Zinc is a mineral. It's not a metal. What am I? Oh, like what's the really uh, worthless metal? Not tin, but it's like fool's. They call it fool's gold. What is it called? Help me here in the chat. Off topic. That was really fantastic. Top 25. Oh, thanks, fanboy. I really am kind of surprised because initially when I put that video out, I had to put out multiple because I saw like little errors here and there, so I had to edit the video again and put it out again and put it out again. I did maybe like 3 postings before I finally put a final version of that video out. But initially, it didn't get any views. It was kind of like, I think you watched it, fanboy, and a couple other people commented and watched it. So I was thinking, oh man, maybe it'll get like 20 views, 30 views at most. But it's up to like 220 views. I think maybe the Superman algorithm is having something to do with that. But yeah, it's continuing to like slowly you just see it like climb up in views every day, and that's not usually what happens to my content. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope that one goes a little bit viral as the movie gets picked up. But hey, B, you and I have to connect. Um, I wanted to do it kind of like just like a weekly maybe check in up until the movie comes out. But again, it all depends on your schedule. But at least one sort of like thoughtful video live stream where we talk about Superman, we talk about the movie, the upcoming project before it premieres, and we were able to show off a bunch of Superman books. I just want to do those are the 3 sort of like caveats for whatever we do. Got to talk about the movie, got to talk about Superman or love for Superman, and then just show off a bunch of books. So hope you're down with that still. Cool. Like changes to the ages categories on eBay, they'd refer to an excerpt. So who's the expert? Apparently Overstreet. I do trust Overstreet. Um, but like I said, we just kind of like landed on Copper Age without really, you know, again, there was no real, I think, vote there. It just went like Silver Age, Bronze, oh, Copper. That makes sense for the 80s or whatever. Like it just that's the way it happened. So not going to complain. It is what it is. I'm not proposing we change the Copper Age. I love the Copper Age. Actually, that's my bread and butter there, the Copper Age. But yeah, for the modern age, I mean, are the 90s really still modern age? Like, we can come up with probably the better name, the modern age, because it's no longer the modern age. It's got to be called something else. Unless we're going to keep calling the current age modern age and just designating like 20 years in the past something else. It's got to be something iron pyrite. What's the pewter age? That's the metal I was thinking of. Pewter. That's like the That's like the worst metal I think that you could use, right? Pewter. It's like an amalgam of like tin and like low grade steel or something. Maybe that's like it's. I want to say it's like tin and copper, like pewter. What is it? Can someone tell me what pewter is? I'm looking it up right now. Pewter is a silvery colored alloy made of tin and other metals like copper, antimony, and lead. There you go, pewter. It's not even a true metal. It's like an alloy of all the cheap metals. So maybe they should have called. Maybe we should call the modern age the pewter age. That's pewter with a P-E-W. I'm gonna spell it out for everybody. Pewter age. The variant age of comics. That's another good one. The variant age. That's a good one. I would not vote that one down, dude, because it is the variant age. Yeah, the variant and reboot age. Yeah, or the pewter age. I'm sticking with viral though, because pandemic, man. Come on, 2020. Just that's it's when time stopped. It's when we all like, and we're all. I think a bunch of us. You just saw flood because like think about it. Um, Leading up to okay, so the Marvel, leading up to the Image creation of comics. That's when you saw a flood of young collectors and hobbyists create this like insane demand. I mean, they're selling 8 million books, 8 million X-Men books. They're selling 2 million Spider-Man books. They were selling, hundreds and thousands of like image titles on a month to month basis. You did not see that flood of people in the hobby ever. I don't think you've ever seen that up until the viral age, up until the coronavirus. Then you saw people, old farts like me, get back into collecting. You saw young people get interested in collecting, and it was just like kind of like the '90s all over again, right? Um, so yeah, again, anything that reflects this shift toward variant covers, uh, the the how we as collectors were um, engaging with the marketing for comic books, right? I think a lot of us were looking at things like Comic Tom, the channels like Comic Tom, comic channels that were previewing books and reading books and all that. We were doing it uh, with each other, right? We were communicating with each other on what was trending or what was hot. And that kind of viral messaging helped spike a lot of the books, helped create demand for a lot of these books. And it continues to today, right? You don't go to your local comic book shop to see what's coming out. You go to your app, you go to like a channel, you see what people are talking about, and then you make a decision on what you're gonna pick up the next week, right? So it's really transitioned away from um, your traditional preview magazine or whatever that you would read to get it to now like just real-time stuff like Jim Lee posts. You're like, oh shit, I'm getting that, right? You just like it's literally just like in your phone now. And in terms of how we engage and talk about things, it's on social media. So there you go. That's a big shift in the industry and how we communicate and how we're marketed to. So yeah, I like the Silicon Age for I think the '90s, right? Because I agree with you. I think the '90s was the true age of innovation for comic books because it literally is what we have today in terms of the the diversity. Um, I mean, think about it. Like you can, like in terms of indie books, there's just like every kind of genre you can imagine. Manga is also a big part of um, what people can read these days. Although I do want to like kind of, although they're both comic books, they're very culturally different. You got the Japanese way of how they've done comic books, which I think is its own. You can't really call it like American comic books. So I'm gonna keep manga in its own little category, and then American comic books, man, it just even there you have so much to choose from in terms of like preferences, right? And you saw that explode in the 90s. You literally went from like, three major publishers to like 10, 20. Now it's just a bunch of, just a lot of um, creativity in that field. Um, so yeah, and then you saw also stories get a lot more grim, a lot more real, a lot more adult oriented. So definitely was not the hobby had shifted, right? The comic books kind of grew up, um, and but even though all that change happened, you still have Superman, you still have Batman, you still have like the core identity of the the industry there, and so that's what I love about comic books. You just have something for everybody, but at the heart and core of it, it is really um, the superhero stories and characters and things we grew up reading that are at the mainstay of the hobby still. That's what I love about it. All right, well, I got good discussion going here. Got names for both the 90s age, 90s to the 2000s, right? Um, and then, yeah, again, I would kind of demarcate the 20s as the start of a new age, but the 20s for me would be related to the changes we have that were brought on by the pandemic. Right? There are a lot of changes there to kind of explore and talk about, but I think, um, like I mentioned before, that pandemic relief money going straight to comic books, you cannot ignore that. That happened. It drove up prices. It drove just sort of this like kind of rabid uh, market for and FOMO, right? It created a lot of FOMO and a rabid market for books that just peaked as more and more people were coming back into the hobby. And it was kind of like a formula. You got back into the hobby, you spent big money on some big books, you got them graded, you're grading modern books, you're buying every variant cover under the sun, you were posting shit on social media and talking about it, you created a channel, you maybe created a following, and now that's what you're doing full time. Um, and you have just this ecosystem of uh, people who are collectors, but they are, I would say it's more than a hobby or a collection. It's like kind of like a way of life almost, right? It's like it's a way to connect with people. It's a way to just again, we enjoy the movies that come out, right? I'm looking forward to watching Superman with my son. I'm really looking forward to seeing that movie. And what helped propel the the love for the movie is kind of getting back into the hobby and following all this um, comic book news and all the industry related stuff leading up to it. That's been a fun process. Um, but it all comes down to like, yeah, I've always loved Superman ever since the first Superman movie. And that first Superman movie is a direct has a direct correlation to the history of the character, the love of comic books, um, that Superman is a beloved piece of Americana, and all those things just kind of come full circle as the Superman movie comes around once again for a new generation to enjoy. So it's just all those things are just kind of interesting to talk about as we saw it unfold before our eyes. Um, and so, yeah, again, if we do come up with a name that we all can, as a community, can agree on, um, I'm more for doing it now rather than later because we're fast approaching 2030 and we don't have a new name for the modern age, or at least a demarcation of like when the 90s kind of era ends and when the next modern age begins. We need to kind of come to terms on that. All right, variant age. We got some votes for the variant age, but this is my issue because there's no real. I know you're saying the 2000s kind of started the variant age, 2008. There's no real because the first variant cover came out in 1986. So I don't think, and then you had variant covers throughout the 90s. Um, you had you had what you call it. You had the hollow variants. You had the foil variants. You had just a bunch of like marketing gimmicks in the 90s around variant covers to get you to buy something like two of something, right? So uh, I don't think calling the variant age from the 2000s would is necessarily reflective of that, right? But what you do see again in the viral age, again in this from 2020 on, you see a flood of ratio variants and variant covers. Okay, so if you're going to call the variant age, which I'm all for, really call it where you see that spike in the number of variant covers that come out week to week, and that is from 2020 on. That's when you really see the flood of um, marketed variant covers. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't say it's anything before 2020 in terms of that. All right, we got some thoughts from Tyler here. Okay, what are we talking about here, Tyler? I think most of the people think 90s is a very age. Yeah, the 90s are when it really took off. If we're gonna call it the variant age, the thing is like it's when it took off, but it still wasn't like as prevalent. It was just a thing. It wasn't like not every issue had a variant age. It was just like kind of like key issues or you know, yeah, like Spawn only has one issue. It doesn't. If you comp the newsstand, that's the variant, right? But Spawn didn't have like a variant issue when it came out. And you go even as fast forward even to like something like Kingdom Come, right? Major key, major event that didn't have any variant covers, didn't even have a newsstand cover. So, you know, at what period do you see every issue have a variant cover? Like I said, it was just recently. That's recent history. It's a recent industry change. Okay. It doesn't go back as far as people think. The true variant age should reflect like the industry change when you just started having like every comic book is going to have an A and B cover and maybe up to Z cover, right? And that's what you saw at Marvel. So you saw it start happening at DC, and then pretty much it's like anybody you can draw something. Why don't you submit it? We'll make it a variant cover. That's literally what it became. Like artists now don't have to do anything else. You couldn't make it as just a variant artist um, pre 2018. Okay, think about that statement. You couldn't just get into the industry and make it as a variant cover artist. Like that. That's just wasn't a thing. You could, for hell no, you can do that in the '90s. No one would pay you to just do a cover. They did that for Neil Adams and Jim Lee back in the day. Like, you guys just focus on covers. You don't have to do anything else. But for the rest of the industry, you had to contribute. So yeah, the variant age is truly, again, like I said, like during the pandemic, everything shifted. So that's when you saw the big rise of the variants. Okay, we got a good discussion going here. I'm gonna keep the video going then. In your Gene Lee collection, you probably have six. Yeah, that's six variants, right? But did issue 2 have variants? No. Did issue 3 have variants? No. Um, it wouldn't be until issue 11 you have a game variant. So you had literally 10 issues between 1 and 11 before you got an actual like other variant cover. So yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. We saw variant covers in the 90s. It was introduced in 86. We saw variant covers throughout the 90s. We continue to see them. But when the industry made a shift to like, okay, now every issue that comes out, we're making a variant cover. That didn't happen until recent times. I hope people are understanding what I'm saying. Yeah, 6 variants. That's right. All right. Right. That's the first variant cover. Man of Steel 1. But the introduction of variant covers, again, if we're talking about the introduction of variant covers, then you know that's already deemed the copper age. So it's not like we can call that the very true variant age. If we're going to go with the variant age name, right? If we're going to go with the variant age name, which I'm not completely on board with. I do like the concept, especially if we're describing it for today's current market. Um, but I think you're seeing the variant cover craze kind of die down, right? There was a point where you like saw like 25, 20, like ridiculous amount of like variant covers on an issue. It's died down. It's died down again. It's like, I know Batman Hush had maybe like 5 variants, maybe. No, probably more. Whenever you get around to Comic Con, this is the thing. Like Comic Tom, he'll go on and do his. He'll go and commission variant covers, and Marvel and DC will just like, okay, Tom, you want to do something? Like submit your artwork. We'll give you the variant badge. It's like any publisher, or not, I should say, seller, any seller willing to buy comic books and put their own cover image or commission someone to do the art for that is technically a variant cover. So as long as you have that system in place, you're going to continue to have these like variants. It's up until people like stop buying them when they don't. Well, variants will no longer be really viable in the hobby, right? I could care less about a variant cover unless it's a Jim Lee, Art Germ, David Nakayama, Peach Mo. May I go on? I know Frizen, right? A lot of people love Jenny Frizen variants. She's another viral age variant artist. So until this kind of mania dies down, it will continue to be part of the system of how comic books are produced. Oh, okay, watching the Super oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, nice. Your thoughts on the movie rewatch, right? 'Cause, I have a really good recollection of the movie, from my child like Superman 1, Superman 2, Superman 3. I have a really good recollection. But I recently went back because these are movies like I've watched multiple times through either television or just, videos. Um, but I remember going back and watching Superman 2. I think I was an adult. Like many years had passed since I'd seen Superman 2. And then I was an adult. I got DVDs, and I remember just getting um, like the collection of Superman movies and watching it. And Superman, the original, that was just like, mm, that was a chef's kiss. You just can't make a movie like that. It's just perfect. Donner's Superman film, just perfect. And then you get to Superman 2, and I just remember in my child mind, I just remember like Superman 2 is the better movie, right? Superman 2 is the one with all the action. You have the three Kryptonians that come. And I just remember like that was the movie I enjoyed as a kid. Not so much the original. Because the original, I came out of the movie theater loving Superman, but it was Superman 2 that really kept that momentum going and was definitely like the better movie experience as a kid. But I watched Superman 2 as an adult, and man, did that movie so hokey. It was just so hokey, man. Um that fight scene, a lot of the just the dialogue and the things the three could they have all this power in the world. They go to this small town and like they're killing kids and with like sirens and stuff, and it's just just ridiculous. And Superman 3 is another. I actually had bad memories of Superman 3, and I went and rewatched Superman 3. Superman 3 is hokey as all heck, but um, there are a lot of actually really good uh, story. It was actually a really good story if you look at it in today's context. Like this supercomputer being designed to really, analyze Superman's weaknesses and then the whole, his exposure to um, it was like red kryptonite, right? Or no, blue kryptonite. It was blue kryptonite, and it causing the cleaving of good and evil, right? Superman, and that was that's like that was actually more of a comic book movie than anything you've seen, right? Superman was not really a comic book movie; it was more like a movie. Um, and then Superman 2 was just kind of like, you know, it wasn't really a comic book movie, but it was entertaining. It was supposed to be entertaining. But Superman 3 was actually really like structured like what you would read out of the pages of a comic book, in my opinion. And then you had Richard Pryor with his humor to boot. So I think it's just an underrated classic um, that I think deserves warrants a little bit more. I mean, it's hokey as well, but that's the way a comic book movie should be. It should be a little hokey. I love that last scene where he's like he crushes this like coal and then he creates this diamond and then he gives the diamond ring to Lana. That like that's just like comic book gold right there. You just can't make stuff like that up. So I think the Diamond Age. I, okay. So first off, I think that's a great. I think that's a great name for the age. Um, but again, it's like you kind of want the age to at least cover like a decade, and I feel like the diamond. Well, yeah, the Diamond Age does cover a decade. and it's just, but it's such a negative. I mean, where we've landed, right? Looking at where we've landed with Diamond, it just really is a negative connotation for the age. And I don't think a comic book age should necessarily, like, my whole point with the viral age, even though it's like intimating the pandemic and all that, my intention is not for it to be viewed as a bad age of comic books. I think to be honest, like this kind of stuff is ultimately good for comic books because I mean, who doesn't want David Nakayama working on books every month, just like cover images, right? Um, so I don't know. I like the diamond. I like the diamond as a concept for the age. I just wouldn't want it to be attached to Diamond Publishing. That just would not be a good. Yeah, it is a negative connotation. Yeah, Superman 3, Scar the right, with the whole. It was really scary. I remember having nightmares about that because yeah, that was a scary part of the because it like the whole tone of the movie up to that point was like it was just like kind of boring in places. Really, as a kid, you just like it was a lot of like Richard Pryor's humor wasn't really translating to kids. I'm sure a lot of adults found him funny because he's a funny guy, but he's like playing Richard Pryor as this like scientist, and he's doing funny things, but it's like I think it's his humor was a little over the head of like a kid in elementary school. And then they throw this scene at the end like it's like a horror scene. It's like this woman gets like absorbed by the computer and she turns into this like robot that would like shoot beams out of her like hand. It was just like horrifying. And then she comes back to like life at the end, right? It's just weird. And it was scary, man. I know what you mean. Scared the living daylights out of me as well. Um, so Tyler, you and I are in the same boat. And again, that was in the theaters. I don't know if it was the audio or what made that scene, but I think it was just like the whole like she was like this lady, and then she come all these like chips like attack her, and then she comes out this like evil robot and all that. It was just weird and scary and didn't make sense. A lot of independents call now the Iron Age. Oh, Iron Age. Mm. I feel like the Iron Age would have been good for the Copper Age. Like that would have been a better. That would, or like the Steel Age. It would have gone like golden, silver, so golden, silver, bronze, and like the Steel Age, and then like the Silicon Age. If it were up to me, maybe I'd look at it that way. It's just the Copper Age is just so like I don't get what about copper made them think, yeah, bronze and then copper. It was just weird. You had the Olympics thing going on, and then right, like it just didn't make sense. Like steel would have been a better, or even platinum, right? Platinum is like kind of like the higher tier. Um, I'm for calling the '90s the platinum age, if we're still sticking with metals. I like that Iron Age too. Um, yeah, Iron Age makes sense because Iron Man. You could literally look at the start of the MCU as the Iron Age, right? Because that's when you saw another kind of explosion of people returning to like Marvel or having interest in collecting comic books again when the MCU took off. Again, this is what I want to say. Iron Man came out in what 2000? Was it 2004? When did Iron Man come out? It was like it's been years. 2010. Okay. No, Iron Man 1. When did Iron Man 1 come out? So 2008. Iron Man came out in 2008. That might be a good starting point to call it the modern age, or sorry, the Iron Age, right? I feel like Iron Man was such a big. He was the guy. He was. He had Batman in the 80s. I guess he had kind of like Spawn as the face of the 90s books, right? Um, and then if you were really attach a character to the MCU, it'd have to be Iron Man, right? So that'd be a great period to call the Iron Age because you had, and then Iron Man became like the thing in comic books as well, right? Um, so yeah, some thoughts there. Those eyes, yeah, that again, that robot lady just scared the Jesus out of every little kid that watched that movie. If you go back and watch the battle between the evil Superman and Clark Kent, that is Christopher Reeve. You know, people just sleep on how talented that guy was, and if you just watch that whole, I mean, they're hokey special effects and whatnot, but man, does he sell it! He just sells that battle, and it's a great scene that the where he's fighting himself, right? And that's a motif in comic books. I want you to realize, like, Superman fighting himself uh, has been a theme throughout the comic books, right? There's been countless stories, covers where Superman's fighting a copy of himself, or he's fighting an alternate universe version of himself, or he's fighting somebody impersonating him, or he's fighting Superboy, or but to some extent, there's like this existential where you're battling yourself, right? It's not just Superman. There's all, I mean, it extends to other um, stories as well. But definitely you see uh, that in the pages of Superman. It's just a constant motif of like Superman battling, a copy of himself or a twin of himself or a version of himself. And so that was really cool. That was what was like comic booky of Superman 3. It's like it really took it's like they took a bunch of comic book writers and said, "Hey, why don't you write a movie?" And they came up with like Superman returning to Smallville, reconnecting with Lana, who was played by the great oh, what's her name? Oh, Anne Meredith, is that her name? She played Martha Kent in what's that her name? She played Martha Kent in Smallville, and Annette O'Toole. Okay, played by the great Annette O'Toole. Annette O'Toole was so hot in that Superman 3 movie as Lana Lang. Oh my God, what a fox. Um, but yeah, like, they kind of rekindle things, Clark and her rekindle thing, or Superman. So Clark and her are reunited. They kind of rekindling things, and then evil Superman, just kind of like makes the moves on her, makes her really uncomfortable. Um, but then in the end, you know, he creates this diamond ring, which is really cool. Scene. He takes this like lump of coal, he just like crushes it, and then at the end, it's like this diamond, right? That was really cool. Like as a kid, you just saw that like, whoa, he just crushed coal into diamonds. Um, and then he gives her this really like it's like 60 carat diamond. It's just this huge like rock. And she's like, oh, thanks. Thanks, Clark. Because she had to pawn her wedding ring or whatever. It is just one of the hokiest things. But again, as a kid, you just Annette O'Toole, thank you. Yeah, Annette O'Toole, uh, super foxy in Superman 3, one of the foxiest actresses. And then she played, um, Ma Kent in Smallville, great actress. Um, yeah, that was a great cast, but she definitely was like, um, her presence on that show was just so powerful as the mother figure of the young Clark. And was it Luke Bowen Luke Duke? Yeah, John Schneider playing just a good old boy playing uh, Jonathan Kent. Um, he also did a great job. That was just they were really talented to bring in so much veteran acting talent to that show. Because you had a bunch of kids as the real stars of that show, right? You had um, Kristen Crook, who I love. To this day, I just am in love with her. And then you had, Tom Welling, just a pretty boy in Tom Welling. And then you had Lex Luthor, um, Michael Rappaport, right? So you had this really great young cast, and then just a lot of veteran talent around them to really make a great week to week show. So I was again just more, you take a great character like Superman, you can really tell any kind of story in any kind of format. Whether it's a comic book, whether it's a television series, whether it's a major motion picture, just like that's how powerful um, the character is. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, all right. Let's obviously this video just kind of is my proposal, I guess, for calling the current age of comic books what it is. We obviously have to go back and rename the the '90s modern age, right? Whatever that's going to be. Um, I don't have any good ideas for that. I do like the Silicon Age. I do like um, the what was it? I think we landed on like the Iron Age, right? We landed on the Iron Age. Um, the Steel Age could work even. I don't know. Keep it metallic, I guess. But yeah, what are we gonna call the true like variant cover age that we're currently in, right? I mean, we're in the variant age, the viral age. The, you could even say like the social media age. I don't know. The digital content age or the digital no digital comics came out way back when. So I want to say something like I don't know. I still like the viral age. I still like the viral age. I'm sticking with the viral age. So let's hope the viral age goes viral. Sell it to your fellow comic book collectors. graphic novel. Graphic novels have been around for a long time. Come on. The FOMO age. That's a good one. That's a good one. The FOMO age, because it really, yeah, FOMO like that became a thing recently. Fear of missing out. The meme age, maybe for like I want to say like the 2010s was like when memes were like kind of at their peak. The meme age, FOMO age. That's a good one. I like the FOMO age. All right. Well, uh, be sure to put your thoughts in the comments. Okay. Leave your votes or whatever for what you would like the current age that we're in, and say, okay, the current age we're in started at this point in time, and we're calling it this. Um, and just have it be a counterpoint to, again, my thoughts on calling the current age that we're in February 2020. I even have a comic book to mark the start, Strange Adventures by Tom King. No, who's this? Yeah, Tom King. Um, as the start of the viral age. So let it go viral. Check me out on Friday. I'm coming back for Otaku Weekly. I'll be putting up the book we're going to talk about on Friday. And we'll continue to I'm just going to see where the viral age goes. We'll talk about more on Friday. So thanks for joining, guys. Really appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you in the next one.